The Siniard Law Show, answering your legal questions. Featuring attorneys Tommy Siniard, Bart Siniard, and your host, Aaron Dacey. This is the Siniard Law Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Siniard Law Show. We're so glad that you're joining us. This is a wonderful opportunity because you literally have free access to some of the best lawyers in America. Bart Siniard has been recognized by the best lawyers in America 3 years running. Bart, so glad you're here with us, and we have another member of your firm with us this evening.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. Happy to be here. Here tonight with Barnes Heyward, my law partner. Barnes and I actually went to high school together, and I've got a few more years on him as a lawyer because right out of college, Barnes actually worked in the insurance industry. So, we do personal injury going against insurance companies. So he's got a unique perspective. Welcome, Barnes. We're glad to have him here tonight.
Wonderful. We look forward to your legal tip coming up. We really want to invite everyone to ask your legal questions. You can do that by calling into a dedicated voicemail line, 1-844-7000-LAW. And you can email us questions at siniardlaw.com. So Barnes Heyward is here with a very interesting legal tip this week, and it has to do with social media.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, and thanks, Bart, for having me on tonight. And before I talk about social media, I do want to take the chance to brag on my law partner, Bart Siniard. Bart has very recently wrapped up a significant multi-million-dollar settlement on behalf of a client who was catastrophically, irreparably harmed. And I know that Bart won't be able to say a lot about it, but I want to brag on him tonight because it was a complex case that required a lot of high-level legal work, and Bart did a phenomenal job on behalf of his client.
Well, thank you, Barnes.
And really, that's what it's all about, is being an advocate for your clients.
Well, it is. And, one of the first things we tell clients is, and what Barnes is about to talk about, is when you've been in a bad accident, you got to be really careful about what you tell other people and what you share out there in the world, particularly on social media. Barnes, give them the talk that we give our clients. And it's not just a personal injury claim. It can be if you're going through a divorce proceeding or you've been charged with a DUI. Tell everybody what they need to know about the pitfalls of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that we do have to talk to people about this. And for some folks, it may seem like common sense not to post about your case or details about what happened on social media. But we all know that all of our lives are out there on social media, and so it is important to talk about, again, whether it's a custody battle, whether it's a personal injury case. And the first thing that we tell people is it's just like you've heard, whatever you post on social media can and will be used against you. The insurance companies that we deal with, they're nosy, and so they're going to dig around on your social media accounts. They're going to look for ways to scrutinize your injuries and the way that you're living your life after your accident. I mean, you can imagine a judge looking at a father's social media use who may be going through a custody battle with this child's mother, examining his lifestyle and whether he's fit to take care of that child. And so the best advice that we give, first of all, is to put the highest level of restriction that you can on all of your accounts. Don't make them public, make them private. In fact, I think Bart would say this is probably the best policy, just to stay off of social media during the entire pendency of your case. And the other thing that we've seen is be careful about the friend requests that you get. Because I've actually had adjusters make friends with clients of mine in order to dig around on their social media accounts. And so if you see a name pop up that you're not familiar with or that you don't recognize, certainly don't accept that friend request. But we just advise people to be wise and to stay off of social media if they can.
You got to be real careful. And Aaron, I'll give you a true story. This was probably 10 or 12 years ago, real case I had a client who was in a car accident, had a pretty serious lower back injury. But a few weeks after the accident, she had posted on Facebook a picture of her sitting on a horse that looked like she was about to go horseback riding. And of course, if you got a lower back injury, you're probably not shouldn't be going horseback riding. And of course, the insurance adjuster and defense lawyer are throwing that in our face. And, to be honest with you, it kind of hurt the case. Our client wasn't planning on going horseback riding. She just wanted to get a picture sitting on the horse. But just little things
it's hard
like
to reel that back in.
It's really hard. It's really
out.
hard to explain it away once it's out there, because they can just screenshot it, and even if you delete it, they've got the proof.
That's some really good advice. So let's move on now to our news story of the week, and this one had to do with a boat crash on Smith Lake.
At 5, a second wrongful death lawsuit is now filed over a deadly boat crash at a fishing tournament on Smith Lake. Lisa Little filed that suit over her husband's death today in Coleman County Court. She's suing Major League Fishing, its president, angler Flint Davis, and others for the crash that killed 3 people back in April. Her wrongful death lawsuit claims negligence. The family of Siniard Town Councilman Joey Broom previously filed a similar lawsuit as well.
Bart and Barnes, what are the legal principles at work in this particular news story?
Yeah, this is a tragic case. This happened several months ago, and like the news story said, a second wrongful death lawsuit was filed on behalf of another deceased boater earlier this month. Barnes, what are the legal principles involved here, both under our wrongful death statute and the fact that this happened on the water? They're suing Major League Fishing. It's complex. Break some of this down for us.
Yeah, it really is a tragic event from a lawyer standpoint, from a legal standpoint. It's interesting because there are a lot of different factors at play here. And so people might ask the question, well, why didn't they just sue the driver of the boat that caused the accident? Why sue Major League Fishing? Why sue their CEO? And there's some really interesting legal theories at play here. And one of those theories is that y'all have to understand that these fishing tournaments, and this one in particular, the prize money was pretty significantly. It was something like $115,000. And so these fishermen, they have a short time frame within which they can leave the boat ramp, go out, catch their fish, and then they have to be back by a deadline. And so speed is really important here. And that's one of the things that the lawsuit talks about is, did the organization, did the way that they set up their tournament and the rules that were in place, did that encourage speed? Did it encourage reckless driving on the water? And did they properly consult marine police and other organizations to make sure that other boaters, like the unfortunate folks who are involved on the other side of this incident, were aware of what's going on? And so from a legal standpoint, it's a very interesting case.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad, but the legal theories involved in it are unique. Tell everybody what they need to know in regards to Alabama's wrongful death statute, because in Alabama it's very unique, both who can bring the lawsuit, what kind of money can be awarded. Walk us through that, Barnes.
Yeah, it's really unique, and I think you and I had a case recently where we were having to talk through the differences between Alabama and other states. And so unfortunately 2 people died in this incident, and one of the unique things about Alabama is that it can't just be any family member that brings the lawsuit. An estate has to be opened up, and only the personal representative of that estate can bring the lawsuit. And so they're the ones that have to be the named party suing on behalf of the estate. The other unique feature that I'm not sure how many or whether there are any other states whose statute is set up the way that Alabama's is, and the way that it is a punitive damage only statute. And so what that means is that all of the pain and suffering, all of the medical bills that may have been incurred, the loss of companionship, consortium from family members, loss of earning capacity, those are not things that can be sought in a wrongful death claim in Alabama. And the theory behind that, Aaron, is that it is intended to punish the conduct of the wrongdoer, not to make the injured party whole. And so that's the theory behind it, which again is very unique to Alabama.
Yeah, the legislatures behind the statute, when it was passed many years ago, basically decided the theory is every human life should be treated equally, whether it's a 1-year-old or a 91-year-old. And therefore, the only measure of damages in a wrongful death case is what is an appropriate amount of money to punish the wrongdoer. That's the sole measure. In some cases, that's fair. Some cases, it's not fair at all. Because in some cases, the wrongdoer, made a whoopsie, made an accident, and maybe doesn't deserve a whole lot of punishing. And then that leaves the family of the deceased possibly not receiving much money. On the other hand, like in cases where there's really aggravated conduct, a drunk driver runs a red light, or a nursing home intentionally understaffs to make a higher profit, resulting in death to their residents. Well, that's a different story. That conduct's egregious, it's aggravated, it's angry, and you can get a significant amount of punitive damages. So Alabama statute's unique. We'll see how this news story with this boating accident, ends up.
Thank you very much, Bart and Barnes. We appreciate that. And of course, we'll stay up to date on that news story. Stay with us, because coming up on the Siniard Law Show, we're going to hear from Donna Castellano with the Historic Huntsville Foundation.
I got sandwiched between an 18-wheeler and a truck. During the accident, I lost my left leg. I chose Siniard Law because my granddad knew they had a great reputation. They were very knowledgeable. They were very sweet. We had a connection. They pretty much treated us like family. I would definitely recommend Siniard Law because they are caring and they will help you get what you deserve. If you've been injured, call Siniard Law.
The Siniard Law Firm is committed to our community, and one feature that we have here on the Siniard Law Show is highlighting folks in our community who are really making a difference. Bart?
As part of the Siniard Law Show, we like to invite guests on who, we have a special admiration for in our community, to kind of feature, leaders in our community, charitable causes, local businesses. And we have with us here this evening Donna Castellano, who is the executive director of the Historic Huntsville Foundation, which also operates Harrison Brothers Hardware, which a lot of people know about. And thank you so much for being here this evening, Donna.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and congratulations to you and your father on this exceptional show that you are doing and offering this as a benefit to Huntsville nonprofits to talk about ourselves.
Well, yeah, we're glad to have you, Donna, and glad to kind of showcase all the great organizations throughout North Alabama. I want to talk a little bit first about Historic Huntsville Foundation, then we'll talk also about Harrison Brothers. What is Historic Huntsville Foundation? What is its mission?
So the mission of Historic Huntsville Foundation is to help with the preservation of historic resources in Huntsville and Madison County. When we were chartered in 1974, that was a pretty definite sort of mission where there's historic places, they're generally antebellum or early or late 19th century, and we were, let's get these listed to the National Register, let's get their neighborhoods on the National Register. But preservation has changed as our understanding of history has changed. And so the Historic Huntsville Foundation's mission has evolved. And so as part of that, we're looking at place in a different way, place through storytelling and expanding our repertoire of the history that we focus on.
Tell us about some of the things upcoming this fall that Historic Huntsville Foundation is helping put on.
So we're very proud that on October the 9th, we're going to debut the American Signature Quilt in Harrison Brothers. And that was a project that was created very early in the foundation's history, right after the purchase of Harrison Brothers. And the foundation was trying to pay off the debt that the foundation incurred with the purchase of Harrison Brothers. So two women, Dale Rhodes and Lynn Jones, solicited close to 200 noted Americans who gave their signatures, and it has been quilted into an Ohio Star pattern quilt. And we're very proud to debut this back in the store. It was created in 1990, and it's really a who's who of the late 20th century.
So that'll be at Harrison Brothers. That will be October 9th?
October 9th to the 25th. We have to be very careful of protecting it. Right. And then we also have an event coming up that you're involved in, which is on October the 25th. We're going to have another one of our Cornerstones of Freedom walking tours of downtown Huntsville, where we do a brief walk around the courthouse square. And it will be you and me and Miss Ollie Conley, who is the Dean of Huntsville History. And through this very short walk around the courthouse square, we talk about Huntsville's entrepreneurial history in the late 19th and early 20th century. It's a lot of fun. It sounds like a history class, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and for everybody watching, if y'all have any interest in local history, there's some really cool kind of hidden stories that I'm going to be helping share.
Yes.
So if y'all have any interest, come out to that. You can follow Historic Huntsville Foundation on Facebook or Instagram for more details. Let's talk now about Harrison Brothers Hardware.
Yes.
Most everybody who's been to Huntsville or lives in Huntsville knows about Harrison Brothers Hardware. For those people that haven't, who live, in the other parts of the Tennessee Valley, tell everybody what Harrison Brothers Hardware is.
So Harrison Brothers Hardware is a family-owned business that was established in 1879. In 1897, they moved to the Courthouse Square, where we have been on that site. Harrison Brothers has been on that site since 1897. The building that most people experience now was built in 1901, 1902, and when the Harrison family realized that they didn't want to operate the Harrison Brothers store anymore, they offered it to Historic Huntsville Foundation, who purchased it, and we've owned and operated that business since then. If you've been in the store, then you realize that the interior is as original to as what was there in 1901 as we can possibly keep it.
Yeah, it's like stepping back.
It's like stepping back in time. Yeah. We have modern point of sale systems, and we have a heating and cooling system, which the Harrison Brothers didn't have in 1897 and 1901. So we've modernized where possible and where necessary, but we have really leaned into the fact that we are local handmade craftsmanship. The craftsmanship that you see in the store is what we want to replicate in the merchandise that we carry. We are a one-stop shop for everything Huntsville.
Yeah, it's such a cool layout and such cool items. Almost everything in there's local artwork, gifts, ornaments, different kind of foods, spices, sauces, aprons. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of different stuff that's locally sourced, that's unique to the North Alabama area. And Donna, I see you've brought something to the show tonight. Explain what this is.
So this is an example of some of the wonderful artwork that we carry. This is a painting by a Decatur artist, Robin Roberts. This is an oil painting, and we carry her work and the work of probably 10 to 15 other artists in the store, along with potters. We like functional art at Harrison Brothers Hardware as well, so that platters and things that you use on a daily basis. We're very proud of our food items. We see ourselves as not just a business, but as a business that promotes and is a launch pad for other entrepreneurs in the Tennessee Valley. Yeah. So we have businesses who they're starting out, and they have a place in our store to come and sell and to create and develop their own businesses.
Yeah. If you have any desire to support local business in North Alabama, support local artists from North Alabama, I really encourage everybody to get down to Harrison Brothers Hardware this fall and going into the Christmas season as the year progresses. Donna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Aaron, back to you.
The Historic Huntsville Foundation does great things for this community in keeping history alive from Huntsville.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're privileged to be in a position where we get to serve the community, and so it's really our honor to bring Donna on to talk about the Historic Huntsville Foundation and Harrison Brothers tonight.
Yeah, a great place to go Christmas shopping.
Absolutely.
Stay with us. The Siniard Law Show. We'll be right back.
Our firm, Siniard Law, we represent people who have been injured due to the negligence of somebody else.
I think we separate ourselves by not only our experience, but our community involvement and our dedication to every client.
The people of North Alabama are very important to all of us because this is home.
We are a Huntsville law firm that cares about Huntsville and North Alabama. If you've been injured, call Siniard Law.
Welcome back to the Siniard Law Show. One of the great parts about this show is that you get free legal advice. Let's take a call from Mel.
I have a question about Fartiga. I was in the hospital 2 or 3 times, and it kept stopping my kidneys up. I don't know what it was, but I almost died from it 2 or 3 times. But I would love for somebody to call me back and talk about it and see if I got lost and gone.
So what do you think, Barnes? Is there anything to this?
You know, there might be, and I think, Mel, the drug that you're talking about, Farxiga, if I recall correctly, there are multiple multi-district litigation suits that are already active or have been active because of dangerous side effects from that drug. And in particular,
is it kidney failure?
Kidney failure, ketoacidosis. And so what I would recommend for Mel is to look into whether or not any of those litigations are still active and whether or not you may be eligible, again, if your symptoms and the problems that you've had from taking that drug, if they're eligible in those litigations for you to be compensated. So that's the first thing that I would look at. But we handle calls all the time from people who have had either a defective drug where we're looking at the manufacturer themselves for producing a defective product. And that's what's happening with Farxiga. But there are also cases where the manufacturer has failed to warn about side effects that they're aware of. And so the unsuspecting public is taking these drugs without a clear picture of how it might affect them. And then, of course, there are other cases where the medication's been incorrectly filled. And then we might be looking at the pharmacist who filled the medication.
Yeah, I mean, medication errors, whether it's a defective drug manufactured incorrectly, or it's mislabeled, or it's misprescribed by the doctor, or it's misfilled by the pharmacist. It's scary how many errors there are with medicines, both from the literal invention of the medicine being faulty, all the way to the pharmacy tech putting the right pills in the right bottle. And we've handled several medication error cases. Mel's particular question is probably like what Barnes was referencing, multi-district litigation. That's the appropriate legal phrase for class action. Most people have heard the class action phrase. And when you have a defective drug like that, usually or almost always, the appropriate way to pursue that is in a class action. His drug, I know, has known risks of kidney failure and maybe some other things. Certainly, if he's had kidney failure because of that, he needs to look up who's handling that multi-district litigation and try to join that class. It may have closed by now. It's been a while. This drug issue's been known for several years now. But look that up, Mel, and see if there's a way you can still join that class.
All right, that's a huge help for Mel. We appreciate that. Now let's move on to another voicemail from Karen.
I was coming out of a convenience store. It's been almost 2 years where I tripped over one of those concrete parking things, and I've been in tremendous pain for almost 2 years now. And two, they talked me into getting, they called an ambulance, but they talked me into signing something. They said they had to have a paper signed for the ambulance to come on their property. I've never heard of that, and I was knocked out of my mind. I mean, I fell face down. I was just wondering what my legal options were there, and I just was wanting some information on that.
So Karen's question brings up 3 issues to me. Number 1, statute of limitations. Number 2, premises liability law. And number 3, the unusual thing she mentioned about the gas station wanting her to sign something for the ambulance to come onto the premises. But let's talk first about the statute of limitations, because that's most pressing. She said it had been almost 2 years since this happened. Barnes, statute of limitations, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing, Karen, that keeps lawyers up at night. And what I would say is, if it's been close to 2 years, you need to call a personal injury attorney immediately, and we'd be happy to talk to you. But for a claim like yours, if you're injured on somebody else's property, you've only got 2 years from the date of injury to file that claim. If you don't do that within a 2-year time frame, then your rights to recovery could be lost forever. So really important that you make that phone call soon.
Yeah, in Alabama, if the incident happened in Alabama, it's 2 years. There's no exceptions, except if it's a child's claim. If it happened in Tennessee, she didn't say where it happened. If it happened in Tennessee, it's actually only 1 year. And when Barnes says to get the claim filed, that means file an actual lawsuit in the appropriate court system, not just report a claim, but actually file a lawsuit. If it's not filed by that 2-year mark, it's over with.
And how long does that take from the time that they come in to see you to?
Well, I mean, if somebody comes into our office and we think it's a legitimate, viable case, we can get a lawsuit filed usually within days. I mean, I've done that before. We don't like doing that because we like to do our homework, do investigation, research applicable statutes if necessary. We don't like getting a case on the eve of the statute of limitations.
You don't want to rush, yeah.
Period, just for numerous reasons. The other thing Karen brought up is really, can she win this case? She says she tripped on a concrete barrier of some sort. There's premises liability law is the law that applies when you're injured on somebody else's property, and there's some defenses of that. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, the defenses that we most often see, the first is whether or not the defect or the condition on the property that caused you to become injured, whether it was open and obvious. That just means, would a reasonable person who is in the same scenario, would they have noticed that and been able to avoid it? The second one is called contributory negligence, which Alabama has a pure contributory negligence law. All that means is that if a jury or a judge, a fact finder, finds that you contributed in some way to whatever caused your injury, then you're barred from recovery. So those are two things that we would need to look at. But in this scenario, you're a business invitee. That means that you're owed the highest degree of care. That business owner owes you a reasonable duty to keep the property in good condition and free from defects or repair defects that they have knowledge of. And so this probably just comes down to what exactly happened, what exactly caused the injury.
Yeah, if she's going to call a lawyer, in a case like this, we want to be able to go actually look at what caused her to be hurt. Get photos of it, take measurements of it. Sometimes we have to hire an expert witness who has, a safety engineer or something similar who can testify that this was not up to code, not up to industry standard. But we also want to see, like Barnes mentioned, the open and obvious defense. Was this hazard, could she have seen it if she was looking where she was going? If there's a strong argument that she could have, it's going to be a tough case to win, but we certainly be willing to talk with her and see if we can help out.
All right. Thank you very much, Barnes and Bart. We appreciate it. It's always so informative. And we would like to answer your legal questions next week. The Siniard Law Show comes on every Sunday night after the news right here on WAFF. You can call us on our voicemail, dedicated voicemail, 1-844-7000-LAW. You can also email questions@siniardlaw.com. Thank you for joining us for the Siniard Law Show. We'll see you next week.
The preceding was a paid presentation by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys. Paid for by Siniard Law Injury Attorneys.